What?
When they start talking, when the people that who I fight, when they start talking, that's when y'all give them. I'ma beat his.
Can't do shit. Wait,
for real. Y'all better be quiet.
You've been talking since I've been baby.
Man, I can't wait.
I'm gonna show you.
Man,
I'm gonna show you. Next, I told y'all who I want to fight. I can't keep saying the same thing. I already told y'all who I want to fight. The best versus the best. That should be my next fight.
Backstage drama just erupted at the Shakur Stevenson press conference, and it's about to change everything. Gervonta "Tank" Davis and Shakur got into a heated confrontation right there behind the scenes, and what they were arguing about has the entire boxing world buzzing. This wasn't some friendly competition talk. This was straight-up aggression, with Shakur getting in Tank's face about what happens next if he gets past Teofimo Lopez. And here's the crazy part: witnesses say Tank looked genuinely rattled by how aggressive Shakur was being. We're talking about a guy who's knocked out almost everyone he's faced, looking uncomfortable because another fighter was calling him out that hard. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and now everyone's wondering if this backstage blow-up was the moment that finally forces the fight we've all been waiting for.
I'm top level, elite level fighter, so let's make boxing great again. Let's put the best fighters in the ring with each other, and let's see who come out.
But this confrontation didn't happen in a vacuum, and to understand why it got so heated, you need to know the history between these two. Ever since Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis emerged as the top dogs in boxing's lightweight division, there's been this underlying tension that goes way beyond normal competitive rivalry. We're not talking about mutual respect between elite fighters here. This is personal, and it shows every single time their names get mentioned in the same sentence. Their camps can't stand each other, their social media exchanges get nasty fast, and whenever they're at the same event, you can feel the animosity in the air. It's like watching two alpha wolves circling each other, waiting for the right moment to strike. And what makes it even more intense is that both fighters know they're sitting at the absolute peak of one of boxing's most stacked divisions, which means this rivalry isn't just about ego, it's about legacy.
Shakur Stevenson, well, of course he's now 135 after all that stuff, and then Devin Haney.
Right, so why people even talk like he the best at, he didn't even fight at 135 yet.
Right.
He didn't even have power at 126, 126, 30 or none of that.
He is good.
Okay. How can you, all that's just okay. How can you stop people that can actually hit? No matter all that boxing, you're going to get hit.
For years now, boxing fans have been absolutely obsessed with making Tank versus Shakur happen, and for good reason. This isn't just another super fight. This is a legitimate clash of completely opposite styles that could define the lightweight division for the next decade. On one side, you've got Tank Davis, a walking highlight reel who can end fights with a single punch and has built his entire reputation on explosive knockouts that leave opponents unconscious before they hit the canvas. On the other side, there's Shakur Stevenson, a defensive wizard with boxing IQ off the charts who makes elite fighters look like amateurs with his movement and technical mastery. It's the classic boxer versus puncher matchup that hardcore fans dream about, and Shakur has been pushing for it harder than anyone. He's gone on record multiple times saying he'd put any other fight on hold if Tank would just sign the contract, and he's even called out Tank publicly on social media, basically begging him to make the fight happen. The desperation in Shakur's voice when he talks about this matchup tells you everything you need to know about how badly he wants to prove himself against the division's biggest star.
When was the Tank and Jake fight?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. He called cap on it. So if you gonna call cap and say I'm not who I say I am, come prove it. I think it's dangerous for him to go back in there and fight Lamont. I think Lamont is a hell of a fighter. I can see that going.
And Shakur's been brutally honest about why he thinks Tank keeps avoiding him, and his explanation is absolutely savage. According to Shakur, the whole dynamic between them changed when Tank realized he was dealing with a legitimate threat, not just another opponent looking for a payday. Shakur says you can literally see it in Tank's body language and energy. What used to be casual dismissiveness has turned into visible irritation and hostility whenever Shakur's name comes up in interviews. Here's what's really wild though. Shakur believes Tank knows deep down that he's the most dangerous fight available in their weight class, and that knowledge is eating away at him. Shakur's theory is that Tank's frustration comes from a place of insecurity, because Tank understands that Shakur's skill set could give him serious problems in ways that other opponents can't. And the psychological aspect goes even deeper than that. Shakur points out that Tank operates with a me or nobody mentality, where he sees himself as untouchable, while Shakur thrives on competition and actively seeks out the toughest possible opponents to prove he's the best. It's two completely different approaches to being a champion, and according to Shakur, Tank's approach is rooted in fear of losing his perfect record to someone who could actually outbox him.
Yeah, for sure.
What changed?
Competition. As you get older, you start to know what competition is, and he kind of looked at me like I feel like I was a threat, which is rightfully so. Like, I don't blame him for the way that he looked at me, but it is what it is. It's two guys that just want to be the best in our sport, and we were ready to lay it all on the line.
Did he say to you like, yo, I don't want to be friends, or we can't, or is it just like a gradual thing where it started to become more distant?
Now you just know energy. You know energy. Once you feel the energy that's coming at you, you understand like, okay, I get it.
When do you think that started to change?
I think as he kind of matured and got older. Once you get older and mature, his energy kind of let it be known like, yeah, you the ops. We got to fight. So.
And perhaps as you were progressing and, you know, getting to the level that you're at now.
He knew exactly. Deep down inside, he could sit here and say, I'm not this, I'm not a good fighter, I'm not that, but deep down inside, he knows that I'm the truth.
Right. So
with him knowing that, he knows that I'm the biggest threat around where he's at.
Do you see he gets very upset when people ask him about you?
Yeah. I think that's insecurity, though. I think he's insecure.
Because he knows that you give him trouble? Like, what's he insecure about, in your opinion?
With top level guys like him, cause like I'm kind of different. I look at things like competition, but like his mentality is more so like it's either me or it's nobody. It's not a 1A, 1B, or you don't have nobody equal to you. So
But here's where Tank's response gets really interesting, because instead of rising to the challenge, he's done the complete opposite. Tank has basically dismissed Shakur entirely, and not in a respectful way. We're talking about straight-up disrespect designed to undermine Shakur's credibility as a top contender. In recent press interactions, Tank has repeatedly questioned what Shakur has actually accomplished in the sport, acting like Shakur's resume isn't worth his time or attention. The most brutal example was when a reporter asked Tank directly why he won't fight Shakur, and Tank's response was ice cold. What has he done? Just like that, he dismissed years of Shakur's work climbing the rankings and winning titles. But it gets worse, because Tank then went on to name-drop other fighters he'd rather face first: Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Vasily Lomachenko, essentially creating a pecking order where Shakur doesn't even make the list. This isn't just avoiding a dangerous opponent. This is strategic character assassination designed to make Shakur look desperate and unworthy of a big fight. And the thing is, it's working in some circles, because casual fans who don't follow the sport closely might actually believe that Shakur hasn't earned his shot yet.
He look like he got skill, right? But to be honest, I'm gonna be real, I ain't see him fight nobody that's like...
That's amateur shit. Come on, bro. When that heat coming back at you, them niggas like, you can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it. They ain't really, these niggas just talking that way. And it's always, oh, he can be this, he can be the next. Nigga, prove yourself. You still haven't proved yourself. When someone was in front of you that can crack.
The contrast in how these two fighters handle the situation couldn't be more different, and it's revealing as hell. While Tank plays the dismissive card, Shakur has taken the complete opposite approach. He's confident, aggressive, and absolutely convinced he would dominate Tank if they ever stepped in the ring together. Shakur doesn't just want the fight for the money or the exposure. He genuinely believes he's the superior boxer, and that Tank's power won't be enough to overcome his technical advantages. In interviews going back months, Shakur has made bold statements about how Tank can't beat me, and how his defensive skills and ring IQ would neutralize Tank's knockout power. But here's what makes Shakur's trash talk so effective. He backs it up with specific tactical analysis. explaining exactly how he would use movement and angles to avoid Tank's power shots while picking him apart with precise combinations. Even more damaging are Shakur's accusations that Tank deliberately picks easier opponents and favorable weight stipulations to protect his unbeaten record, instead of facing the fighters who would truly test his skills. These aren't just random insults. They're calculated attacks on Tank's reputation as a fearless knockout artist, and they're designed to make Tank look like he's ducking the real competition, while Shakur positions himself as the guy who's ready for anyone, anytime, anywhere.
Gimmick exhibition matches like Jake Paul versus Tank Davis or Floyd versus Tyson, good or bad for the sport of boxing?
I mean, I feel like in Floyd and Tyson situation is different than Jake Paul and Buddy. I feel like with Floyd and Tyson, it's like, okay, y'all deserve it. Y'all legends, y'all paid homage, y'all did the most for the sport of boxing already. So you deserve a big payday and be cool. I'm cool with it. I like it. But with Jake and Buddy, I feel like Buddy is a participate in the sport of boxing right now, and he just came off a draw his last fight. So if you're a real champion and top level guy that you say you are, which I think you are too, I think you're the truth. But if you're that guy and you just came off a draw, I think rematching will be the most competitive thing to do. With the Jake Paul situation, it's a money grab fight.
And then Tank went and made the Jake Paul announcement, and the boxing world absolutely lost its mind. The backlash was immediate and brutal, with fans, media, and even other fighters tearing Tank apart for choosing what they saw as an easy payday over a legitimate sporting challenge. Social media exploded with criticism, and the overwhelming sentiment was that Tank had just confirmed everything Shakur had been saying about him, that he prioritizes money and spectacle over proving himself against elite competition. The Jake Paul fight was seen as the ultimate example of Tank avoiding real risk, because let's be honest, Jake Paul is a YouTube celebrity who's had a few exhibition matches, not a legitimate threat to an elite professional boxer. Critics pointed out that Tank had spent months dismissing Shakur in interviews, while simultaneously avoiding calling him out or making any real effort to negotiate a fight. And now here he was announcing a bout against someone with zero credibility in professional boxing. The narrative wrote itself. Tank talks tough, but runs from real challenges. And the Jake Paul fight was proof that he'd rather take easy money than risk his perfect record against someone who could actually beat him. Boxing purists were disgusted, Shakur fans felt vindicated, and even casual fans started questioning whether Tank was really the fearless knockout artist they thought he was.
Shakur, obviously you are a student of boxing. You love this sport. I mean, when you hear this today on social media or wherever you happen to get the news, were you like, what? Like, can that actually be, man?
Nah, I'm not shocked. I mean, his last fight when he fought Lamont, Jake Paul was at the fight. He told y'all he was going to fight somebody like Jake Paul. So I'm not shocked. It don't surprise me. So, nah.
You know, Shakur, Jake, when he fought Mike Tyson, he was 227 pounds. He was 199 and like 199 point something his last fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He hasn't been only boxing for a couple of years. He's 12-1. Tank Davis obviously been boxing his whole life. He's 30-0-1. He's knocked everybody out except for 3 opponents in his life. But at what point does size matter so much, though, where it can't be overcome, Shakur? And is it in this case here when you've got what is like a 70-pound difference between these two guys?
I mean, size will play some part of the fight, but if I'm thinking like I'm Tank, I'm probably just gonna go out there and try to outbox him and use my knowledge and IQ against him. So I can see Tank just outboxing him and making it real easy.
Is there any way you could, any realistic or legitimate way in your mind you could see Jake Paul winning a fight?
But Tank's response to all the criticism was absolutely ice cold, and it showed exactly why he's been so successful at controlling his own narrative. Instead of backing down or trying to justify his decision, Tank basically told everyone to shut up and mind their own business. At the press event promoting the Jake Paul fight, Tank brushed off all the backlash like it was nothing, saying that fans' opinions are constantly changing anyway, and that their frustration doesn't influence his career decisions one bit. His attitude was basically, I'm going to do what I want when I want, and if you don't like it, too bad. He told critics to sit back, enjoy the sport, and stop worrying about what he does with his career, which is honestly a pretty boss move when you think about it. Tank's position is that he doesn't owe anyone a specific fight. And if the Jake Paul bout makes him more money with less risk, then that's just smart business. The confidence it takes to ignore that much criticism and stick to your plan is actually impressive, even if boxing purists hate the decision. Tank knows he holds all the cards as the bigger star, and he's using that leverage to do exactly what he wants regardless of what fans or other fighters think about it.
A lot of boxing fans aren't happy with the fact you've taken this fight rather than the road rematch, fights with the likes of Shakur, Devin Haney, Teofimo, etc. What do you make of that reaction? And can we still expect to see those fights?
Why should I care what they think? When y'all switch somebody can have a bad day and y'all switching on who y'all favorite fighter is or who this person is supposed to fight. Like y'all need to sit back and be fans and just enjoy the sport. Like y'all even talk about people's personal lives. Like why when it come to that?
Can we still expect to see any of those fights in the future though?
And y'all keep talking about fighting somebody. Didn't he just have a fight? And what happened? What happened? He won, right? But how he look in it? Exactly. But y'all say some different shit when it's me, right? Cause y'all want me to lose. When y'all see people in that limelight too long, they want to take that they want somebody else to come take that spot. That's why it's always like, come on, bro. That's what happened with Floyd. Y'all seen him too much, and once y'all seen him so much, y'all start hating.
Now here's where everything gets really interesting, because Shakur can talk all he wants about Tank avoiding him, but he's got his own major test coming up that could change everything. Shakur's scheduled to face Teofimo Lopez in what's being billed as a career-defining fight, and this isn't some tune-up bout. This is a legitimate test against a proven champion who's got the skills and experience to end Shakur's title dreams right there. Lopez is a former unified champion who's faced elite competition and won big fights, so if Shakur's really as good as he claims to be, this is where he needs to prove it. And here's the strategic element that makes this fight so crucial. A dominant win over Lopez would give Shakur the credibility and bargaining power he needs to force Tank's hand. Right now, Tank can dismiss Shakur's resume and get away with it because casual fans might not know how good Shakur really is. But if Shakur goes out there and outclasses a big name like Teofimo Lopez, suddenly Tank's dismissive attitude starts looking ridiculous. A win over Lopez would put Shakur in position to demand the Tank fight as the clear #1 contender, and it would make Tank look even worse if he continues avoiding him. This is Shakur's chance to back up all his trash talk with a performance that nobody can ignore or dismiss.
Shakur is a very talented, skillful, technique fighter.
Yeah.
Can't take anything away from it. However, scared to get hit. Scared to get knocked out in front of the world. Scared to get touched up in front of the world.
Are you saying that off of the last fight or just
in general?
In general.
In general.
Yeah.
In general. Me and Shakur sparred before. We did 3 rounds, and it was just light work. And me trying to figure out his jab. Does he have a good jab? Yeah, he does. But once you pass his jab, it's game.
Yeah.
It's food. It's lunch food. I am the best. I don't see no contract that says Shakur's name on there.
Yeah.
So until then, I'm gonna say and talk my stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want to come that way, then come that way. I mean, you have investors that are with you, and that's great. But they understand that they cannot.
The boxing world is already picking sides for the Lopez fight, and some legendary voices are weighing in with bold predictions. Shane Mosley, a former world champion who knows what it takes to win at the highest level, has come out strongly in favor of Shakur despite the step up in weight and Lopez's proven championship pedigree. Mosley's breakdown of the matchup is fascinating because he acknowledges Lopez's power and experience, but believes Shakur's technical advantages will be the deciding factor. According to Mosley, if Shakur can control the pace and use his superior movement to keep Lopez guessing, his defensive mastery and boxing IQ will carry him to victory. But what makes Mosley's prediction really interesting is that he's not just looking at this as an isolated fight. He's clearly thinking about what it means for Shakur's future and his potential showdown with Tank. Mosley knows that an impressive win over Lopez would put Shakur in the perfect position to demand the biggest fights in the division, and his endorsement carries serious weight because he's been in similar situations throughout his own Hall of Fame career. When a legend like Mosley says you've got the skills to win a big fight, people listen.
If Shakur Stevenson is going to get slower, moving up in weight or not, where Teofimo can hit him. Maybe he was really fast at 130, 26-30, maybe 35, but 40, you put on a little bit more weight. Shakur Stevenson has a very strong style where he can sit back and pot shot you and box and stuff like that, where Teofimo can also box and is very athletic and can get from side to side and can make things difficult for you as well. So what style is going to impose on the other is what we want to see.
So which style will impose? Is it something where like the first rounds really will dictate, or?
I think you're going to need a couple of rounds, but the first round is going to be very interesting. Maybe you see some tails, but I think maybe 2 or 3 you're going to start seeing one lead the other. Because I don't think that, well, maybe, I mean, Shakur might show some different, if he has to go after Teofimo, he might show some different type of heart that we haven't seen or different type of fighting we haven't seen. And vice versa, you know, whereas Teofimo's hitting him with different shots off the angle that is kind of giving, you know, Shakur Stevenson trouble.
But let's be real about where things stand right now, because despite all the drama and buildup, the Tank versus Shakur super fight is still frustratingly elusive. Shakur keeps calling it the biggest fight in boxing and insisting it would break pay-per-view records and captivate worldwide attention. And honestly, he's probably right about that. The stylistic matchup, the personal animosity, and the stakes involved would make for an absolutely massive event that boxing fans would lose their minds over. But wanting something to happen and making it actually happen are two completely different things, especially when one fighter clearly doesn't want the fight as much as the other. Tank and Shakur are currently on completely separate career paths, with Shakur focused on building his resume against elite opposition, while Tank seems more interested in maximizing his earning potential with lower risk, higher reward matchups. The business realities of boxing mean that both fighters need to be equally motivated to make a super fight happen, and right now that motivation just isn't there from Tank's side. So while fans continue to dream about this matchup and debate it endlessly on social media, the harsh truth is that it could still be years away, if it ever happens at all.
When are we gonna see the Shakur Tanks, the Shakur Devin, the Devin Tanks?
There's only one fight that is really
the one.
Bad. Like, if we were like gonna be for real about it, like,
keep it honest. What's
like,
the fight?
My opinion, because we talking about like skill and like boxing, like all around boxing, right?
Yeah.
Because we ain't talking about somebody that just got a good jab or what.
Yeah.
We talking about like all around.
Can do everything.
Yeah, boxing.
Yeah.
Me and Tank the biggest fight.
That's the one.
It's the biggest fight in the world.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be the biggest boxing fight in the world when it happens.
Y'all, what you think? Like 147, 140?
Nah, hell no.
135?
35, 40, I don't know. I could see it happening not too far in the future.
Really?
Yeah. I think Tank will sign that contract.
Dang.
So here's where we stand after that explosive backstage confrontation and everything that's led up to it. We've got Shakur desperately trying to force the biggest fight in boxing, while Tank seems perfectly content to avoid him and pursue easier money. The Lopez fight could change everything if Shakur wins impressively, but Tank's track record suggests he'll just find new reasons to avoid the fight even then. This whole situation perfectly captures what's wrong with modern boxing. The best don't always fight the best because business considerations trump sporting merit. Here's my question for you. Do you think Tank is legitimately ducking Shakur, or is he just being smart about protecting his earning power and undefeated record? And if Shakur dominates Lopez, will that finally force Tank to step up, or will he just move the goalposts again? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this debate is far from over. If you want to stay updated on all the drama and see if this super fight ever actually gets made, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell because this story is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one. The real wild card in all this isn't even the fighters themselves. It's the promotional politics happening behind closed doors that most fans never hear about. Tank is signed with Mayweather Promotions and PBC, while Shakur is with Top Rank, and these promotional companies have been feuding for years over fighter contracts, television deals, and revenue splits. What looks like Tank ducking Shakur might actually be a much more complicated web of business relationships, exclusive broadcast agreements, and promotional rivalries that make cross-promotional super fights incredibly difficult to negotiate. Floyd Mayweather himself has gone on record saying he protects his fighters' interests above everything else, and that could mean steering Tank away from dangerous fights that don't maximize his earning potential. Meanwhile, Bob Arum at Top Rank has his own agenda for Shakur's career trajectory, and he's not going to let his rising star get shortchanged on purse splits or promotional control just to satisfy fan demand. But here's what's really fascinating about this whole situation. Both fighters are at completely different stages of their careers, and that timing mismatch might be the real reason this fight feels so elusive. Tank has already achieved mainstream crossover success, headlined major pay-per-view events, and built a fanbase that goes way beyond hardcore boxing enthusiasts. He's in the position where he can pick and choose opponents based on what makes the most financial sense, not what makes the most sporting sense. Shakur, on the other hand, is still in that hungry challenger phase where he needs big wins to elevate his profile and prove he belongs in conversations with the division's elite. This creates a fundamental imbalance in negotiating power, because Tank doesn't need Shakur nearly as much as Shakur needs Tank. It's the classic veteran versus rising contender dynamic, where the established star holds all the leverage and the challenger has to basically beg for opportunities that should be automatic based on merit alone. And let's talk about what happens if Shakur actually loses to Teofimo Lopez, because that scenario would completely flip this entire narrative on its head. A loss would vindicate everything Tank has been saying about Shakur not being ready for elite competition, and it would give Tank the perfect excuse to keep avoiding him indefinitely. Tank could point to the Lopez fight and say, "See, I told you he wasn't on my level." And suddenly all of Shakur's trash talk and callouts would look like premature confidence from a fighter who couldn't back up his words when it mattered most. The psychological impact would be devastating for Shakur's career momentum, because losing to Lopez wouldn't just be a setback. It would be proof that he was never the threat to Tank that he claimed to be. Tank would probably use a Shakur loss as ammunition for months, bringing it up in interviews and social media posts as evidence that he was right to focus on other opponents. The scary part is that Lopez definitely has the tools to win this fight, so Shakur is literally putting his entire Tank Davis narrative on the line when he steps in the ring. What makes this even more intense is that both fighters know the entire boxing world will be watching the Lopez fight through the lens of how it affects a potential Tank showdown. Shakur can't just win, he needs to win convincingly, and in a way that makes Tank look foolish for avoiding him. A close decision or an ugly fight where Shakur struggles would actually hurt his case for deserving the Tank fight, because it would show that he had trouble with Lopez, who most people consider a level below Tank in terms of pure talent. Shakur needs a statement performance that leaves no doubt about his elite status, something that forces even Tank's biggest supporters to admit that avoiding him looks cowardly. The pressure is absolutely enormous, because this isn't just about beating Lopez. It's about proving that everything Shakur has been saying about being Tank's most dangerous opponent is actually true. Meanwhile, Tank gets to sit back and watch Shakur take all the risk while potentially setting himself up for an even bigger payday down the road. If Shakur wins impressively, Tank can swoop in and demand massive money for finally giving the fans what they want, positioning himself as the A-side who's doing Shakur a favor by taking the fight. If Shakur loses or looks vulnerable, Tank can continue his current strategy of cherry-picking opponents while pointing to the Lopez result as justification. It's actually a brilliant position for Tank to be in, because he gets all the upside with none of the immediate risk. This is why veteran fighters with established reputations have such an advantage in boxing politics. They can afford to wait and let hungry challengers prove themselves before deciding whether the fight makes sense financially and competitively.